I knew something was wrong the moment I saw him. I was cutting across Union Station on a freezing November night, mind already full of the meeting I'd just left, when a small shape on a bench caught my attention like a punch to the ribs. I don't know why I stopped. I never stop for anything. Not in public places, not in crowds, not in train stations where danger hides in pockets of shadow. But something in me turned before my brain gave permission. A little boy sat alone on the cold metal bench, clutching a half-broken teddy bear like it was the only thing keeping him alive. His jacket was too thin for Chicago winter. His shoes had holes in the toes. One of his legs was held straight by an orthopedic brace that shined under the harsh station lights. He wasn't crying, he wasn't moving. He wasn't even looking for help. He just stared at the doors like he was waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. And somehow, I knew he'd been waiting a long time. I stopped walking. People behind me shifted and muttered, but one look in my direction and they kept moving. That always happened. My presence changes air, makes people tense. They don't know my name, but they know enough to stay away. But the boy didn't flinch at all. That scared me more than anything. I walked toward him slowly. My coat brushed the marble floor. My footsteps made no sound. He looked up just as my shadow fell over him. Blue eyes, tired and glassy from cold and hunger. Too old for a child that young. "Hey, little man," I said, keeping my voice softer than I ever use it. "What's your name?" He hesitated, like he was afraid to get the answer wrong. Then he whispered, "Tyler." His voice was so weak I had to lean down to hear it. That close, I could see the tremble in his lip, the cracked skin on his hands, the faint bruises on his shins. Signs of neglect anyone could recognize. Signs people had walked past for hours. "How long have you been here, Tyler?" I asked. He hugged the teddy bear tighter. "Since my daddy went to get tickets." He said, "Don't move." His gaze shifted back to the giant clock on the wall, as if counting minutes the way scared children count heartbeats. He said, "We're going somewhere warm." A cold knot twisted in my stomach. I checked the time. It was almost 8 at night. "Tyler," I said quietly, "when did your dad leave?" He looked down at the floor, when the sun was still up. 4:30, maybe 5. Hours ago. My hands curled into fists inside my coat pockets. I deal with bad men every day. I know the look of desperation. I know when someone cuts loose something they don't think they can carry anymore. His father had abandoned him. No doubt in my mind. But there was something else. Something that made my chest tighten. The teddy bear. Brown fur worn thin, one eye hanging by a thread, stitching on the belly in a pattern I knew like my own name. I'd seen that bear before. I'd given it to a woman 23 years ago. A woman I'd loved before the world turned me into the man I became. She disappeared from my life with no explanation. But the bear in this boy's arms was hers. My breath caught. Fate doesn't usually knock. It breaks doors. But somehow, this felt like both. "Tyler," I said, sinking down to kneel in front of him, my coat pooling on the cold floor. "Where's your dad now?" He shook his head. His blonde hair fell over his eyes. "He said he'd come back." But the way he said it, even he didn't believe it anymore. I looked around. People were rushing, talking, eating, living like nothing unusual was happening. And right in the middle of that noise, a 3-year-old boy shivered alone, with a brace on his leg and a stuffed animal older than he was. A janitor approached, pushing a mop, but when he saw me kneeling there, he turned away quickly. Typical. Everyone avoids me. Everyone except this tiny boy who didn't even know he should. "Are you cold?" I asked. He nodded without looking up. I took off my scarf and wrapped it around his narrow shoulders. It almost swallowed him whole. His small fingers tugged at the fabric. "Are you going to leave too?" Quote. That question hit me harder than anything in years. Because I saw the truth in his eyes. He expected every adult to disappear. "No," I said. My voice was steady, final. "I'm not leaving." Quote. I pulled out my phone. One call would clear the entire concourse. Another would bring a social worker. Another would guarantee no one laid a hand on this child without my permission. Normally, I didn't get involved. Not this deep. Not like this. But something about Tyler anchored itself in my soul before I could stop it. He didn't need a stranger with power. He needed someone who wouldn't walk away. "Come here," I said gently. He hesitated, then lifted his arms. My heart cracked when he did that. I picked him up. He fit against me like he'd been waiting for someone strong enough to hold him. He rested his head on my shoulder, still clutching the bear. I felt his tiny body shiver through my coat. "It's okay," I whispered. "I've got you now." I didn't know then how much those words would change my life. I didn't know that taking him home that night would rewrite my future. I didn't know the woman connected to that teddy bear would come back into my world. All I knew was this. A father left his son at a bus stop, and I, of all people, found him, and nothing in my life would ever be the same again. The moment I carried him out of Union Station, the cold wind hit us hard. Tyler tucked his face deeper into my shoulder like he was trying to disappear inside the warmth of my coat. He was so light, I barely felt his weight, and something about that made my chest tighten. A child shouldn't feel that light. Not at 3 years old. My car pulled up the second I stepped outside. My driver froze when he saw the boy in my arms, but he didn't ask questions. No one in my world asks questions if they want to keep their job. I opened the back door and lowered Tyler inside. He clung to my coat with both hands, like letting go might send him back into the station alone. "It's okay," I said quietly. "I'm right here." His fingers loosened only slightly. The heater blasted warm air and he shivered against it like his body didn't know how to handle comfort. I buckled him in, adjusting the seatbelt around his brace as gently as I could. He blinked up at me, eyes heavy with exhaustion. "You hungry?" I asked. He nodded once, small, careful, like he wasn't sure if hunger was allowed. The car pulled away from the curb and I watched him in the rearview mirror. His head kept bobbing as sleep fought against fear. He clutched the teddy bear so tight his knuckles turned white. At a stoplight, he whispered without opening his eyes, "Is Daddy coming?" Those 3 words hit me in a place I didn't know still existed. I turned slightly in the seat. "Not tonight, Tyler, but you're safe with me." He didn't answer. He just curled into himself, small and quiet. A few minutes later, he fell asleep, his cheek pressed against the scarf I'd wrapped around him. And as I watched him, something shifted inside me. Responsibility. Anger. Something like protection. Something dangerous. Something new. When we reached my building, my security team was already waiting. They saw the boy and straightened, eyes wide. No one dared speak. "Prepare the guest room," I ordered. "Warm the place. New sheets. Bring whatever a child needs." They moved instantly. Inside the penthouse, the silence felt different with him in my arms. Softer. Warmer. Like the air itself understood something had changed. I set him down on the couch, but the second my hands released him, his eyes flew open in panic. "No," he whispered, clutching my sleeve. "Don't go." I sat beside him. "I'm not going anywhere." His breathing slowed again. His hand stayed wrapped around my coat even in sleep. That simple trust, given so easily, so instinctively, felt heavier than anything I had ever carried. I didn't know what I was supposed to do now. I run businesses, territories, entire parts of a city, not bedtime routines, but looking at him. Looking at that brace. Looking at the bear I remembered from another life. I couldn't walk away. I wouldn't. I called a doctor next. At 11 at night, he came. They always do when I call. He checked Tyler gently while the boy slept. Checked his vitals, his leg, the brace. "He's underweight," the doctor said. "And the brace is old. Too small. He needs surgery." My jaw clenched. "Soon?" "As soon as you want." I nodded. "Schedule it." When the doctor left, the penthouse felt quiet again. The kind of quiet that comes before a big storm. I sat there watching Tyler sleep. His face twitched with dreams I didn't want to imagine. His small hand clutched my sleeve even as he shifted. He trusted me, already. And I didn't know how to handle that. At some point, I pulled a blanket over him. His fingers loosened finally, but only after his hand found the teddy bear. The bear stared up at me with its one remaining eye like it recognized me. And maybe it did. Maybe the past I'd buried wasn't finished with me yet. Around 2 in the morning, Tyler woke up crying. Not loud, not dramatic. Just small, broken sounds, like he was trying to hide it. I lifted him without thinking, and he buried his face in my chest. "It's okay," I murmured. "You're safe." He shook his head against me. Daddy said he'd come back. I swallowed hard. Sometimes grown-ups say things they don't understand. "Did he lie?" Tyler asked. It was the saddest question I'd ever heard. "Yes," I said softly, "but I won't." His arms tightened, his breathing steadied, and slowly, he fell asleep again in my arms. I didn't move him, didn't lay him back down, didn't close my eyes. I sat there all night, holding a child who wasn't mine. A child whose father abandoned him. A child who needed someone. A child carrying a teddy bear from a woman I once loved. And around 4 in the morning, I knew something with absolute certainty. I wasn't letting him go. Not now, not ever. Tyler woke up in my arms just after sunrise. For a moment he looked confused, like he didn't remember where he was. Then his eyes found mine, and something in his tiny shoulders relaxed. "Are we still here?" he asked softly. "We're still here," I said. He nodded, but his hand stayed wrapped in the fabric of my shirt like he was afraid the world might shift again if he let go. I'd held guns, deals, threats, entire neighborhoods in my hands, but nothing had ever felt as delicate or as heavy as the little boy gripping my sleeve. "Are you hungry?" I asked. He nodded, then hesitated, as if waiting for permission. "You can eat as much as you want," I said, standing with him still in my arms. When we reached the kitchen, he stared at the food my staff had laid out. Pancakes, eggs, fruit, as if it might disappear before he touched it. He took only 1 pancake and 2 strawberry slices. "That's it?" I asked gently. His eyes lowered. "Daddy said I eat too much." I felt something sharp twist inside my chest. "Well, I say, you can eat until your stomach smiles." He blinked at that, then took another pancake. Then another. He ate slowly, carefully, as if he was still waiting for someone to yank the plate away. When he finished, I carried him to the living room. The morning light spilled across the windows, turning the city gold. He pressed his face to the glass, fascinated by the world beneath him. "It's high," he whispered. "Do you like it?" Quote. He nodded. "It feels safe, like no one can reach us." I didn't tell him how much those words landed inside me, how much I wanted that to be true. About an hour later, the doctor arrived again, along with a physical therapist who explained, in simple words Tyler could understand, how they would make his legs strong. "Will it hurt?" Tyler asked quietly. "Some," the therapist admitted, "but you will get better." Tyler looked at me then. That look, it was trust wrapped in fear, hope wrapped in doubt, a silent question only I could answer. "I'll be with you," I said, "every step." He nodded, small but sure. The therapist smiled. "He's brave." "He's stronger than he knows," I said. After they left, Tyler curled against me on the couch. He didn't talk much, just traced shapes on my sleeve with his finger. Squares, circles, patterns only he understood. Then he whispered, "Why did you help me?" "You didn't have to." I took a breath. "Because someone should have, and because I couldn't walk away." He studied my face for a long time. Then he nodded like he had solved some puzzle inside his head. "Does that mean you're my person now?" My throat tightened. "If you want me to be." He didn't answer with words. He simply rested his head on my chest, as if that was all the answer needed. That afternoon I tried something I hadn't done in years. I cooked. Tyler sat on the counter, legs dangling, watching me chop vegetables with wide, curious eyes. I handed him small tasks, passing me salt, stirring sauce, tasting noodles, and every time he did something right, he looked at me like he had won a prize. "You're good at this," he said. I almost laughed. "I don't usually do it." "You're learning," he said proudly. Just before dinner, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, the woman standing there nearly stopped my heart. Dark hair, steady eyes, professional clothes. She carried a leather bag and radiated quiet confidence. "Mr. Russo," she asked. I'm Dr. Isla Montgomery. I'm here to evaluate the child's mobility. Her voice was smooth, calm, familiar in a way I couldn't place. Tyler peeked from behind my leg, clutching my pants. Isla crouched down instantly, not with fake baby talk, not with forced cheer, but with gentle respect. Hi, Tyler. I'm here to help your leg feel strong. May I come in? He looked up at me. I nodded. She's here to help. He stepped back, still holding my hand. Isla smiled at him, and something warm flickered across her face. Do you like puzzles? She asked. Tyler nodded slowly. Yes. I brought some, she said. His eyes widened with interest, and in that moment I noticed something I hadn't expected. The way she saw him, really saw him, not the brace, not the fear, not the abandonment. She saw a brilliant little boy with a mind full of numbers and patterns, and when she lifted her eyes to mine, I felt something unfamiliar, something dangerous in a softer way than violence, something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. It's nice to meet you, she said. You too, I replied, though the words came out lower than I intended. The session went better than I could have imagined. Tyler listened to her, trusted her, even laughed once. A small sound, but real. When she packed up her things, Tyler tugged her sleeve. Will you come back? He asked. Her expression softened. If you want me to, quote. He nodded. Please. She smiled at him, then looked at me, something quiet passing between us. I'll return Friday, she said. After she left, Tyler climbed onto my lap, cuddling close. She's nice, he whispered. Yes, I said. She is. He looked up at me with sleepy eyes. Do you think she likes numbers? I smiled. I think she likes you. He rested his head against me again. I like her too. As his breathing slowed and his small body relaxed in my arms, I realized something crystal clear. This child had changed my life in 2 days. And another change was coming. Quiet, unexpected, and just as powerful. And I wasn't sure I was ready, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't run from it. Not this time. Not this life. Isla came back that Friday, just like she promised. Tyler waited by the door 10 minutes before she arrived, holding his teddy bear like it was part of the welcoming committee. When the elevator opened and she stepped out with her soft smile and her leather bag, something warm settled in the center of my chest. Hi, Tyler, she said gently. Ready to get stronger today? He nodded fast. I practiced walking in a straight line. Want to see? She laughed softly. I would love to. And just like that, she became part of our routine. 3 times a week she came. 3 times a week Tyler lit up. 3 times a week I found myself watching her. Not because I had to, but because something about her made the room feel safer, warmer, different. She didn't treat Tyler like a fragile thing. She didn't treat me like a dangerous man. She treated us both like we were human. And that was new. Weeks passed, then months. Tyler learned to walk without a limp. His confidence bloomed like he'd been waiting for someone to water something inside him. One evening, after a long therapy session, I offered her dinner. Stay, I said. He'd like you to. She hesitated, but not long. Okay, she finally said. I'd like that. That night changed everything. She sat at our table, laughing gently at Tyler's endless questions about numbers and patterns. She challenged him with little puzzles, and he solved them faster than she expected. Every time he gave the right answer, she looked at him like he was brilliant, and every time she smiled at him, I felt something shift inside me. When I walked her to the door later, she paused before leaving. You're doing something incredible for him, she said quietly. I looked at her, surprised. I'm just trying not to fail. You're not failing, she said. You're rebuilding him. Her eyes softened. And, maybe, he's rebuilding you too. The hallway light reflected in her eyes, and I felt something unfamiliar, something I'd buried long ago, something like hope. She came back for dinner the next week, then the week after. Soon, Friday nights felt incomplete without her. One evening, after Tyler fell asleep early on the couch, her hand brushed mine. Not intentionally, not planned, just a light touch that made something inside me go still. She looked up at me. I don't know what this is, she whispered. I don't know if we're allowed to want the same thing. Why wouldn't we be? I asked. Because your life is complicated. and mine is broken. I stepped closer. We're both learning to start over. The room felt warm, quiet, full of unsaid things. Her breath shook just slightly. So what happens now? I lifted a hand and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't pull away. If anything, she leaned closer. What happens now, I said softly, is whatever feels right. And then she kissed me, not rushed, not nervous, just honest. I hadn't known how hungry I was for something gentle until that moment. Her hands curled around the back of my neck, and for the first time in years, I felt someone see the man beneath the reputation. When we finally pulled apart, she laughed quietly. "This is risky. Everything real is," I said. Tyler shifted on the couch half asleep and mumbled, "You two are loud." We both froze, then burst into soft laughter. He opened his eyes just enough to look at us. "Did you kiss?" he whispered. Isla covered her face with her hands. "Oh no." I cleared my throat. "Go to sleep, little man." He closed his eyes again. "Good. I like when you two smile." And just like that, our fate was sealed. Days passed. Therapy became play. Dinners became tradition. Nights became something we all looked forward to. But the biggest day came in June, the adoption hearing. Tyler held my hand the whole time. Isla sat beside us, her hand resting lightly on his back. When the judge announced I was now his father in the eyes of the law, Tyler looked up at me with bright, proud eyes. "We're real now," he whispered. "Like prime numbers." I lifted him into my arms. "We've been real for a long time." After the hearing, outside in the warm summer air, Tyler reached for Isla's hand too. "Are you staying with us?" he asked. Her eyes softened. "Do you want me to?" "Yes," he said simply, "because you're part of the pattern now." She looked at me. I looked at her. And I realized I didn't want a life without her in it. "I want you to stay," I said quietly, "not as his therapist, as us." She took a breath, a long, steady one. "Then I will." Tyler clapped his hands together. "We're a family now!" And for the first time in my life, the word didn't scare me. It didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel impossible. It felt right. That night on the couch, Tyler curled between us, his head on my shoulder, his feet on hers. He was drifting off when he whispered, "Papa?" "Yes? We're unbreakable now, right?" I looked at Isla. She touched my hand softly, linking our fingers over his small, sleeping form. "Yes, Tyler," I said, my voice steady and full. "We're unbreakable." And I knew it was true. Some families are born, some are found. Ours was rescued, healed, and rebuilt. One cold night in a train station. One child's hope. One quiet woman's light. One man's choice not to walk away. And that made us stronger than anything life could throw at us.